So Disney under Bob Iger just got slammed with a 100% tariff from President Trump on movies made overseas, and the fallout is already shaking Hollywood. So, as you all know, Disney moved its biggest Marvel and Star Wars projects to the UK and for tax breaks, but those savings are gone. You see, Bob Iger and Disney are now facing billions in new costs that just threaten its entire slate. And with the shareholders, they want answers. Okay, Bob Iger is the one who made the call to move production and is also the one who has to find a way out. And the CEO of Disney is the one who will take the blame if this particular gamble sinks the company. All right. So, as you all know, Trump has, basically described the tariff as a way to restore movie making as well as protect jobs. It also imposes an across-the-board penalty on studios that film overseas. Now, for Disney, that simply means Marvel and Star Wars projects no longer benefit from the tax incentives that were offered abroad. Now, Bob Iger faces the big challenge of adjusting production plans that were structured around those breaks. Okay, so the cost advantage of filming outside the United States has disappeared. Okay. And with that being said, with Avengers Doomsday was already projected to cost about $700 million. Now, under the tariff, the figure rises to $1.5 billion at that level. And that level, the movie would need $3 billion to go ahead and break even. So no Marvel release has achieved such result. Now, this places Disney in a position where its most expensive projects cannot realistically deliver profits. Okay, so Bob Iger carries responsibility for structuring projects around overseas production at this particular scale. So Trump's announcement, as you all remember, has delivered action with immediate implications, where studios are uncertain how the tariff applies to films already in production or whether it affects projects in post-production. You see, these details remain unclear, but the effect is already visible. Now, Disney and Bob Iger must now operate under conditions where overseas production is just financially unstable. And to be fair, Trump has said that this was going to happen. Okay. And he said this was going to happen. And that's where Bob Iger and others should have went on ahead and started making adjustments in the first place. So Trump's approach to from his established negotiation style, where he sets a maximum demand and allows opponents to react. Now, the tariff produced an instant disruption where studio executives are already examining potential lobbying campaigns for increased state tax credits to offset the impact. Now, Disney, with its size and political influence, will lead that effort. And Bob Iger is in the center of those negotiations, testing whether his connections can reduce the burden itself. Okay. Now, for years, as you all know, this company, it benefited from Georgia's generous production incentives. Marvel used Atlanta as its hub, and the arrangement provided stability. Then the studio shifted production to the UK and Canada. Okay. Now, the change was explained as, a business decision, but politics were a factor as well. And that choice is now a liability. You see, Bob Iger guided the relocation, and the tariff exposes how vulnerable the decision has made the company itself. So basically, the political environment of the UK actually complicates the matter even further, with incidents involving restrictions on speech and public demonstrations reflect the climate of instability. So this is where Disney concentrated, production, when Georgia had offered a consistent and supportive base, and the move away from it has left Bob Iger with just fewer options and even higher risks. Trump's tariff underlines those realities right there too. Now, Avengers Doomsday has finished principal photography, but large scale reshoots are common for Marvel projects as well. You see, if those reshoots are subject to the tariff, the cost will actually escalate even further. Options are limited, and canceling overseas commitments means, financial penalties, where keeping them invites tariffs and stuff. But either way, Disney faces losses, and Bob Iger cannot avoid the consequences. Well, because the framework was just created under his leadership. Okay. So the company itself has, long-term contracts with people, countries overseas, with studios overseas, stage facilities, and even local crews. Breaking those agreements requires penalty payments. Okay. Now, continuing them brings tariff costs. The result is reduced profitability in either scenario. Investors will expect accountability from Bob Iger, who chose to base large projects abroad. Now, Disney is now trapped between, between two losing choices. And quite frankly, I'm be honest with you, BlackRock is still a big investor with Disney, along with Vanguard and stuff. I don't think they really are going to care about this, because they're going to keep shelling money out to the studio no matter what and stuff. But guess what? They won't care now, but later on, they're going to start panicking. All right. So basically, Bob Iger has built his reputation on cultivating political relationships. You see, he worked with governors and national leaders to protect Disney's interests and stuff. So his recent visit to the Oval Office for a theme park project appeared cooperative, and Trump's policy now demonstrates that those relationships do not guarantee protection when economic priorities change. Okay, so yeah, some analysts also suggest the tariff is connected to cultural controversies, including Disney's support of Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, but others say that it's strictly economic. But regardless of the motive, the impact, you got to be real here, is the same. Disney faces billions in added costs. Shareholders will expect Bob Iger to explain why he placed the company's, most valuable franchises in such a vulnerable position. Okay. Now, this policy actually echoes earlier tariffs on manufacturing, where companies that once moved production to Asia eventually returned when tariffs made, domestic operations more cost effective. Film production may follow the same path, and Disney and other studios may find it more sustainable to film in California, Georgia, or even Ohio. Now, the transition would be expensive, but could secure long-term stability. Okay. Now, along with that, Trump's decision has created conditions that force the discussion, and Iger will just have to adjust to strategy in that particular response. Now, as you all know, California is not an easy solution at all, with high taxes, regulation, and labor rules increase production costs all the time. These conditions were part of the reason studios left in the first place. So the tariff changes the balance. States like Georgia can compete again by offering incentives. Disney may pursue these options to remain competitive. Bob Iger would then need to rebuild relationships in states the company previously left behind. And the handling of the past controversies and stuff simply just adds to the scrutiny. Roseanne Barr was removed after one tweet. Gina Carano lost her role, while Pedro Pascal continued despite, similar behavior. Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel remained protected basically despite poor ratings, and these inconsistent actions frustrated audiences and even damaged the goodwill. Now, if tariffs now cut profitability, critics will argue that Bob Iger simply just wasted focus on political favoritism instead of just protecting financial stability over at Disney. Okay, so basically Hollywood is already facing declining streaming growth, weaker box office, numbers and high production costs thanks to people like Bob Iger. Now, the tariff accelerates the financial strain. You see, studios, especially the one under Bob Iger, restructure will contract, and Disney, once the dominant leader, is now exposed to vulnerabilities across its franchises. Now, Bob Iger returned as CEO with the goal of stabilizing the company, yet the external environment has become harsher under Trump's policy. So, yeah, basically, the long-term result of the tariff itself is not final. Courts may alter it and politicians may try to soften its application, but the core message itself has been delivered. Outsourcing blockbusters is no longer secure model, and Disney must reconsider its production structure. And at the same time, Bob Iger faces a defining moment: either move operations back to the United States or just continue on a path that erodes profitability. Now, the responsibility sits with him. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.